Right now on Morning News Now, the stage is set. This morning, Donald Trump in New York for closing arguments in his high-stakes, multi-million-dollar civil fraud trial. But the former president won't be speaking. We'll tell you why and what to expect as the months-long case comes to a close. Plus, chaos at the Capitol, where President Biden's son, Hunter, made an unexpected appearance as House Republicans vote to hold him in contempt of Congress.
To hold someone in contempt who has offered to publicly answer all their proper questions. The question there is, what are they afraid of?
They closely testify today, would you, sir? Yes.
We'll have highlights from the dramatic high-stakes hearing and what it could mean. And the Republican race for president is heating up, with frontrunner Donald Trump opting out of last night's debate again, holding a town hall instead. Plus, Chris Christie announcing he's dropping out of the race just days before the Iowa caucuses. We'll bring you the latest. Also, what's in the water? Renewed concerns about the safety of bottled water, why researchers say the problem is a lot worse than originally thought. And 15 years later, we are looking back at the incredible emergency landing known as the Miracle on the Hudson, with one of the 150 passengers who was on board that flight. Pretty incredible to hear she still has friends that she made on that flight today.
That is a bonding experience, to say nothing else.
That's exactly right.
Good morning. Good to have you with us. I'm Joe Fryer.
And I'm Savannah Sellers. We're going to get started today here in New York, where closing arguments are set to take place in the civil fraud trial against former President Trump.
New York Attorney General Letitia James initially sued Trump for $250 million, accusing him and some of his family of inflating the value of their assets so they could secure favorable terms in loans and insurance. Trump has denied any wrongdoing. Last week, James upped the ante, calling for a $370 million fine against Trump and his companies. She also wants a lifetime ban on the former president to keep him from working in the New York real estate industry.
The former president had asked to deliver part of today's closing argument himself, but the judge in the case denied the request following a contentious back and forth with Trump's lawyers about certain conditions he wanted Trump to meet.
For more on what we can expect today, we're joined by MSNBC anchor Yasmin Vasugian, who's outside the courthouse in Lower Manhattan. Also joined by NBC News legal analyst Danny Ceballos. Good morning to both of you. Yasmin, let's begin with you. The trial, it lasted more than 2 months. It ended a little bit ago, just before Christmas. So what can we expect today?
So the last time we heard from this trial, from the defense, they had presented what they thought was their star witness. It was this NYU professor, Elie Bartov. And I want to read for you just to kind of set things up as to what we can expect today going forward. From Judge Engoron about Elie Bartov and his testimony. And he said at the time, Bartov is a tenured professor, but the only thing his testimony proves is that for $1 million, some experts will say whatever you want them to say. And I just want folks to know he was paid over $900,000 or so for a day and a half of testimony. When we're looking at today, we're going to be watching for closing arguments, right? It's going to begin with the defense's attorneys, Chris Kise, Elena Haba, Cliff Roberts, 2 hours of closing testimony, followed by the prosecution's 2 hours as well, Kevin Wallace, Andy Amir. You talked a little bit about how the former president's attorneys had asked for Donald Trump to also present part of closing testimony, closing arguments here. There was a lot of back and forth. That happened, I believe, beginning on January 4th by Chris Kise. When the request was initially made, and Judge Engoron at the time essentially said, okay, look, he can do it, but he's got to follow the rules. He can't violate the gag order. He can't go after any of the folks that are in my court. He can't go after the attorney general. He cannot go after myself. They didn't respond. And then on January 9th, they came to the judge and they said, the former president's mother-in-law has passed away. We would like an extension until the end of January. And he said, I'm sorry about your loss, but no extension. And what about your response to what I put in place? No response. The deadline came and went yesterday at noon. And he said, well, it looks as if the former president is not going to offer closing arguments. So with all that being said, court is going to begin today at 10 a.m. I'm sure there's going to be some conversation as to whether or not the former president can offer some of those closing arguments. Judge Engoron has already made it clear he's not going to allow it to happen, has actually gone so far as to say if he violates this gag order within these closing arguments, there could be a major fine and or he could be escorted out of court by court marshals. So it could be a very big day for this case, guys.
Danny, let's bring you in here. How unusual would it have been if the former president were to have made some of those closing arguments himself? And would that have been a legal risk in any way?
Honestly, I can't believe this was even ever on the table. And, you know, a lot of folks like to say that Trump is being treated like any other person who would be before the courts, but not really. And this is a great example. Justice Engoron eventually denied this request, which I think was the right move. But you see from some of these emails that it was in play. It was a possibility. And here's the way it normally works. If you have an attorney, whether it's a civil or criminal case, it's the attorney who speaks. If you want to fire your attorneys and proceed what's called pro se by yourself, which I don't recommend, then you can give your speech at the end because you're acting as your own attorney. But even where you have both, courts do not let you do some blended arrangement where, oh, sometimes I'll let my attorney talk and sometimes I get to talk. Right. It's just not allowed. Yes, you have a constitutional right as a criminal defendant to take the stand and speak in your own defense. But that does not translate to being able to give a speech at closing argument, particularly closing argument, where really the rules are generally that you just can't even interrupt it. You're really allowed to make a speech as long as it's tethered to the facts and a summation of your argument. But, man, that would have been chaos. And it looks like Justice Engoron was actually considering it, which still amazes me.
So, Danny, real quick, what is the judge deciding here? How quickly will we get that decision?
How quickly? Really don't know. I mean, I looked at Justice Engoron's summary judgment decision. It was thoughtful. It was many pages long. So he definitely puts time into his decision. And so he has to decide the remainder of the case. Keep in mind, he already decided a good portion of it when he granted summary judgment in favor of the plaintiffs. Just so you know, the standard there, it's very rare to get summary judgment granted. You basically have to show that the defense has zero chance of winning. And at least part of the case has already been disposed of. The question is the remainder of the case. And a big question there is damages, which is why the AG is asking for more. She feels pretty sanguine about how her team did, so she's asking for more from the judge. Not too unusual. Look, if you think you're winning, go for the gold.
All right, Danny, Yasmin, thank you both. Appreciate it.
Well, meanwhile, in Los Angeles today, Hunter Biden is expected to be arraigned on federal tax charges.
He faces several counts, including failing to pay taxes, evading an assessment, and filing a fraudulent form. Hunter Biden faces up to 17 years in prison if he's convicted. Now, yesterday, 2 congressional committees voted to formally recommend the full House hold Hunter Biden in contempt of Congress. It's because he defied a subpoena in the GOP-led impeachment inquiry into his father. Well, earlier in the day, you see it right there, the president's son made a surprise visit to the Capitol, actually attended the committee meetings in person.
NBC News Justice and Intelligence correspondent Ken Delanian joins us now with more on this. Hey, Ken, good morning. Let's start with today's arraignment in L.A. Bring us up to speed on this federal case and tell us what we can expect in court today.
Good morning, Savannah and Joe. Well, the thing to know about this federal case is it's much more serious than the charges to which Hunter Biden had agreed to plead guilty in a plea deal that collapsed, which is why we're here. Felony tax charges, which, as you said, carry up to 17 years in prison. So he'll be arraigned today in the courthouse in downtown Los Angeles. An arraignment is a standard kind of a procedure where the charges against him will be read, his rights will be explained. There may be some discussion of deadlines and other filings in the case, and then we'll go from there. And remember that he's also facing separate felony charges in Delaware. So he's in some very serious legal hot water, guys.
So, Ken, let's turn to that showdown on Capitol Hill yesterday. Hunter Biden appeared at that committee hearing. We know he's at odds with Republicans over their demand he be deposed behind closed doors. He wants to do it publicly in front of the cameras. What happened during this hearing yesterday?
Well, his appearance, which surprised everyone, including the White House, the press corps, the entire Capitol Hill officialdom, really commanded massive media attention. He sat in the back of the room during the hearing. The committees voted to bring the contempt resolution to the full House. And then some Republican members of Congress had some choice words for Hunter Biden. I think we have some sound. Take a listen.
Hunter Biden, you were too afraid to show up for a deposition, and you still can't today. I believe that Hunter Biden should be held completely in contempt. I think he should be hauled off to jail right now.
Hunter Biden is terrified of strong conservative Republican women because he can't even face my words as I was about to speak to him. What a coward.
Now, of course, assuming the House eventually votes to hold Hunter Biden in contempt, the only way that's enforced is if the Justice Department decides to bring charges, which they have in other cases, and they've declined to do in some cases. So we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, so as we kind of look ahead, what could happen here? The committees have voted to recommend the full House hold Biden in contempt of Congress. Specifically, where does that go from here?
Yeah, so then they would send the resolution over to the DOJ. And it's really up in the air. They look at it as a policy matter. So, for example, remember when Steve Bannon and Peter Navarro defied subpoenas related to January 6th? They were prosecuted. They were convicted in D.C. court. Many other former government officials, the DOJ has simply declined to act. It's not really clear where this Hunter Biden subpoena fits in that pantheon of past cases. So we'll have to take a look at it and see what the DOJ does.
All right, Ken, as always, thank you very much.
Many are still recovering from the wicked winter weather, just as a new round of storms treks across the country.
Yeah, take a look at some of the damage. We're going to show you some video here. The first wave of storms we told you about yesterday peeled off part of the roof on a wedding venue in Pickens County, South Carolina. Look at that.
And look at the flooding across upper Marlboro, Maryland. Heavy storms dumped more than 2 inches of rain here. 2 people actually had to be rescued from a car on this flooded road. At least 7 others had to be saved from their vehicles in this area as well.
And it's not over yet. Meteorologist Angie Lassman joins us now with the latest track on more severe storms expected to sweep the country. You've warned us, Angie, these just keep coming. Good morning.
Good morning, guys. And here we go again. We've got another storm system that's going to take almost the exact same path as what you just saw from the damage there. We've got the winter alerts, we've got the wind alerts, and the flood alerts. Still, a couple of those remain in effect for parts of the Northeast. But look how expansive these wind and winter alerts are. Just under 50 million for winter alerts. We've got 90 million or close to it for the wind alerts. And here's the system we're going to track. Again, similar path to the previous one that we saw. Bring some snow to parts of the plains today. We'll also see a blast of Arctic air, really bitter cold conditions that are going to last across the plains and eventually spread to the east into portions of the Midwest here as we get into the next couple of days. Really brutal cold conditions. But we've also got the snow on deck for folks across this region as we get into tomorrow, from Buffalo to Chicago, Detroit, stretching down into portions of Kansas and Missouri. We'll see some of that snow. And it's not just the heavy snow that we're worried about. It's the strong winds that are going to be accompanying that snow. So difficult travel across this region for Friday. And notice the rain that will also track across the east. Again, those really saturated grounds, not quite as much as rain as what we dealt with this previous storm, but still saturated grounds, already flooding concerns in that region with still flood alerts up. We likely will have another problem here as we get into the end of our work week. That's Saturday. A look at the Great Lakes. We're still going to be dealing with some of that lake effect snow across that region as you get into your weekend. Here's the severe threat that we're looking at today. 7 million people, Shreveport right in the bullseye. Alexandria to Little Rock could see the potential for isolated tornadoes, some large hail, some strong winds. And this is more expansive as we get into tomorrow, including 37 million people across the southeast, a similar area that dealt with those strong to severe storms with the last go around of our storm. This is going to be something that we watch for the potential for strong tornadoes as well. EF2 or higher for places like Montgomery, Macon, Columbia. That is the area that you'll want to have the ability to get those alerts as you get into your Friday. By the time Saturday rolls around and we finish up, I think we'll see maybe an inch or so of rain, guys. But the Midwest is going to get hammered with snow, especially along the lakes. We've got a potential for maybe a foot to a foot and a half for places like the UP of Michigan. So it'll be a winter wonderland there, and a half for sure.
All right.
With bitter cold, too.
Yeah, there you go. Thanks, Angie.
Thanks, Angie. In the Republican race for president, Chris Christie announced last night he's ending his 2024 campaign just hours before the latest GOP debate, which he was not going to be part of.
Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis went head-to-head in their latest battle for second place behind frontrunner Donald Trump. Meanwhile, Trump held a town hall at the same time just on the other side of town. All this comes as, of course, we've got just 4 days until the caucuses.
NBC News correspondent Garrett Tate joins us now from Des Moines, Iowa. Garrett, good to have you with us. So with 4 days until the caucus now, what did we see, first of all, on this debate stage last night? What were the big takeaways between Haley and DeSantis?
Well, Joe, in some ways, this is probably the most substantive debate that we've seen so far with just two candidates on stage. Haley and DeSantis were able to cover a lot of ground on policy, on their differences from each other, on their plans for the country and so forth. But it also seemed to be taking place in something of an alternate universe. The two candidates barely talked about the dominant frontrunner, Donald Trump, who's crushing both of them in Iowa right now. It was as if they chose to pretend he didn't exist, except for a few moments like these.
I wish Donald Trump was up here on this stage. He's the one that I'm running against. He's the one that I wish would be here. He needs to be defending his record.
Every candidate needs to earn your vote. Nobody's entitled to your vote. And he comes in here every now and then, he does his spiel, and then he leaves. I've shown up to all 99 counties because it's important.
Joe, we ended up hearing far more about the website Nikki Haley's team created to make fun of Ron DeSantis for lying than we did for her plans to defeat Donald Trump, who's leading in this state by about 30 points. So a lot of heat, but perhaps not a lot of light about how these candidates expect to change this race.
We did get a lot of plugs for that URL, didn't we? Garrett, what did we hear from Donald Trump last night? I mean, we heard him, I know, at least hint about a running mate, right?
Yeah, the Trump town hall on at the exact same time on a competing network was meant to draw some eyeballs away from this debate. It drew mine for a little bit, and the thing that caught my attention was this comment about a running mate. Donald Trump, and it's always hard to tell if he's just spitballing here or how much truth there is to the statement, said he's already decided who his running mate was going to be. He kind of ignored and teased around the moderator's attempts to follow up. His campaign afterwards said that's not right, that he hasn't made a final decision yet, and that they'll announce one when he does. But as you guys know, the sweepstakes game, who's going to be the number 2 on the ticket, is basically everybody's favorite parlor game between now and about June, and Donald Trump started it early last night.
So, as we mentioned, former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie's dropped out of his long shot bid for president. He was really the only one who was criticizing the former president. Does this have any impact on the state of the race?
Well, it might. Christie was really only running for president in New Hampshire. Functionally, he was in 3rd place there in most of the polls. And a lot of those same polls show that with Christie out, his support goes to Nikki Haley. So it could make a difference for her in a state where she badly needs it. But Christie gave her a pretty unwelcome parting gift in the form of a hot mic comment that was captured on video just before he took the stage, in which he seemed to say that she would get smoked in this race and that she wasn't up to the challenge, presumably of picking up his mantle as the anti-Trump candidate. It's that comment made before the event even started that's getting a lot more attention than anything Christie said about Trump once he actually started his withdrawal speech. That's not going to help Nikki Haley or anybody else in this race, guys.
All right, Garrett Hake, lots to cover, more to come. Thank you so much.
Well, we are following a major legal and diplomatic battle. It's unfolding at the International Court of Justice right now. 2 days of legal arguments have opened over accusations Israel is committing genocide in Gaza in the wake of the Hamas-led attacks on October 7th. South Africa brought these claims to the United Nations High Court, where 15 judges will hear the case today and tomorrow. The court's rulings are binding under international law, but it has no power to enforce the rulings. NBC News foreign correspondent Megan Fitzgerald joins us now from our London bureau with the latest on this. Megan, good morning. So what have we heard and seen so far in this hearing? What kind of evidence is South Africa presenting to the International Court of Justice?
Yeah, guys, good morning. Good to be with you. A lot of ground to cover here. The first South African attorney that we heard from today argued that Israel is committing genocide through various aspects of their military campaign and that they've imposed conditions on the territory that cannot sustain life. The attorney then talked about the mass displacement and indiscriminate bombing of innocent civilians, how the IDF has bombed areas that were supposed to be safe. She went on to say how those injured and maimed don't have access to adequate health care, and aid is being restricted onto the enclave. She highlighted how the territory is on the brink of famine and how disease is quickly spreading. Then we heard from a second attorney who spoke about the insightful comments made by high-ranking Israeli officials, which he says have genocidal intent, which they argued influence the actions of soldiers on the ground. This attorney cited comments made by Israel's defense minister at the beginning of the war, calling for a complete siege on Gaza because they're fighting, quote, animals. He called that language, which has been repeated by other Israeli officials, dehumanizing. Guys?
So, Megan, what could this court find? What power does it actually have?
Oh, look, Israel is expected, as far as next steps are concerned, they're expected to make their case tomorrow on as to why they're not committing genocide on Gaza. Israel has previously said that these allegations are baseless. They're not targeting civilians, and Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said on X, formerly Twitter, that there's no intent of occupying Gaza or displacing its civilians. Now, the judge will likely come back. These judges will likely come back with a decision in the next few weeks. And when they do, should they side with South Africa, there's no way to force Israel to adhere to the court's orders. However, many analysts have said that should Israel fail to listen to the court, it could be very damaging in the court of public opinion and even affect its relationships with other countries. Guys.
Right. Megan Fitzgerald, as always, we appreciate your reporting.
Much more to come here on Morning News Now. Later this hour, water warning, the alarming news study about just how much plastic is in bottled water and how it could be hurting your health.
Up first, though, after the break, a fake emergency with real consequences. We'll tell you about a surge in those so-called swatting calls impacting public officials. Stay with us. We are back with news about an alarming rise in so-called swatting incidents. Those are fake emergency calls that are meant to draw a SWAT team to someone's home. While as NBC's Gabe Gutierrez reports, increasingly they are targeting high-profile public officials.
It was something Congressman Brandon Williams never expected on Christmas Day.
It is a surprise when it happens to you. It's very personal. It's very violating.
He says someone had called 911 to falsely report violence at his home. Police recognized his address and called to alert him while they were on their way. But the harassment was terrifying for his family.
I wanted to get my family into a place where they would be safe. I brought everybody into the kitchen and I just explained what was happening, drop everything.
Swatting, as it's known, is when someone makes a false emergency call, often alleging violence at a victim's home, so that heavily armed law enforcement, such as a SWAT team, respond. It's happening more often to prominent and even not so prominent public officials. Among them, Special Counsel Jack Smith, who filed criminal charges against former President Trump, accusing him of plotting to overturn the 2020 election. Also, Judge Tanya Chutkan, who's overseeing the case. Maine's Secretary of State Shenna Bellows, who barred Mr. Trump from the state's ballot, also swatted. So was Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene, Florida Senator Rick Scott, and Boston Mayor Michelle Wu. A trend that has the Justice Department on high alert.
A deeply disturbing spike in threats against those who serve the public.
The FBI has launched a national database to track these incidents and says that swatters use what's known as spoofing mechanisms to hide their identity and their location. As for Congressman Williams of New York, he believes he was targeted because of his pro-Israel views. No arrests so far. The sheriff investigating the case stresses the calls are more than pranks. They're illegal and can be dangerous and lead to violent encounters with police who might believe they're responding to a threat.
People that are doing this are trying to create chaos. They're trying to intimidate the individuals who are the subject of these false reports. And it's very unfortunate.
Our thanks to Gabe Gutierrez for that report. Well, some states, including Virginia and Ohio, have increased penalties for swatting. Other states are currently considering that.
Let's talk more about this with NBC News senior law enforcement analyst Cedric Alexander. He's also the former chief of police of DeKalb County, Georgia. Chief, good to have you with us as always. So I was stunned to read this. There was a recent NBC News article that reported there's no specific law criminalizing swatting in the U.S., though there are other statutes that have been used to prosecute these cases. There are penalties when someone's caught and convicted. But bottom line, it is tough to prosecute these cases, isn't it?
Yeah, they can be tough to prosecute. However, in many states, anytime that you call and falsify a police report, oftentimes there are local state laws that refer to that, but it varies from state to state. But I think the bigger issue here, guys, this morning is that this is becoming and continuing to be a problem within our society, particularly as these types of events are directed at high-profile elected officials or appointed officials in this particular time that we're in the history of this nation. So I think as time goes on, you're going to see public safety, law enforcement at the federal, state, and local level continue its efforts, but more increased technology is going to have to be introduced here, I think, to fight against this spoofing, as it's referred to, as we go forward each day.
Do local law enforcement agencies, or let's say a 911 operator, are they being trained to spot swatting calls? Is that part of this, to try to pick up on when it's happening?
Well, sometimes these calls can come in, they can sound very real, and certainly if it comes in as an urgency, 911 operators are trained to respond immediately. But the dangers that are involved here, that any time that you call in, there is a report of some violent incident that is actively taking place. Police are going to come. They're going to come hurried. It put the community at risk, and those officers trying to get there as safely as they can. It put the officers at risk. It can create a situation where there is some contact with police and some individual or individuals that could turn out to be wrong. It just is not a good situation. I would encourage the public who may be watching this morning, if you know people are doing this, please stop them. If you are doing this or considering it, you're putting your community, you're putting your state, you're putting the nation at harm, because this is a type of behavior that needs to end immediately, because it serves no real purpose, and it hurts all of us, and it hurts our communities.
That's an important message to people out there who may not think it is doing much damage or having an impact. If you yourself think you are the target of a swatting call, what should you do?
Well, certainly notify your local police as soon as possible. Gather as much information as you can. And they certainly, within police, when you call 911, they're recorded messages, and they're able to trace, under some circumstances, they're able to trace those calls back to the person or persons who have made those calls. But we know that we're seeing a great deal of spoofing now, where it may be hard to track that, I think. But as we go on, I think you're going to see technology that will be introduced to help either spot and certainly lead us to those who may be carrying out these types of acts.
All right. Chief Cedric Alexander, as always, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me this morning.
Coming up, promises of change from the CEO of Boeing after this mid-air emergency, what he's saying about the investigation and what's being done to keep passengers safe.
And it's known as the Miracle on the Hudson. We are marking 15 years since that incredible emergency plane landing on the Hudson River with one of the 150 passengers who survived. This is Morning News Now. Welcome back. The CEO of Boeing is making a promise to find out where quality control broke down, leading to that midair blowout of a door plug involving a Boeing MAX 9 plane. CEO of America's oldest plane maker is assuring that the company will do better as the NTSB and FAA continue their investigation of last week's scare. NBC News senior correspondent Tom Costello joins us now. Tom, good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Joe. So United and Alaska Airlines are the only airlines that fly the MAX 9 in the U.S. They're waiting for inspection procedures from Boeing and the FAA before they start a 5 to 8 hour process. So for now, all MAX 9 flights remain grounded. Alaska says probably at least through Saturday, while Boeing is very much right now in damage control. Once again, Boeing is fighting for its reputation. 6 days after the side of an Alaska Airlines MAX 9 blew out in flight, forcing an emergency landing, CEO David Calhoun told employees airline confidence in Boeing is on the line.
Moments like this shake them to the bone, just like it shook me.
In a CNBC exclusive, Calhoun says he takes this accident very personally.
I saw the picture, everybody saw the opening. But what I really saw was the empty seat. And I had spent a week with my kids and grandkids, and so enough said.
Out of pure luck, no one was seated next to the hull when it opened up. It's been 5 years since 346 people died in 2 MAX 8 crashes overseas. The MAX 8 was then grounded for 2 years. Boeing forced to pay $2.5 billion in fines and settlements. But Boeing has struggled with quality control. This MAX 9 was brand new, delivered in November, yet with a potentially fatal flaw. Investigators believe the door plug that blew out wasn't properly securely secured. The NTSB says 4 critical bolts have not been found. It's not clear if the bolts were ever attached. When Alaska and United Airlines technicians examined other MAX 9s, they found loose bolts around those door plugs too. The fuselage for the MAX is made by Wichita-based Spirit Aerosystems, then delivered to Boeing for final assembly.
We're not going to point fingers there because, yes, it escaped their factory, but then it escaped ours too.
Spirit has also struggled with quality control problems, but says, as a company, we remain focused on the quality of each aircraft structure that leaves our facilities. Secretary of Transportation Pete Buttigieg.
Are you concerned about the quality of product that Boeing is turning out, and should the American public be concerned?
What I'll say is that every plane that they deliver to an airline, every plane that goes into the skies needs to be 100% safe, and they need to be able to demonstrate that.
Boeing created a chief safety officer after the MAX 8 crashes. CEO Calhoun says it's up to that chief safety officer to determine when Boeing clears the MAX 9 to fly. It's not the CEO's decision, not the board's decision. The chief safety officer makes that determination now. Joe?
All right, Tom, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
And well, while Boeing is trying to figure out what went wrong with its plane, next week marks the 15 years since what we call the Miracle on the Hudson.
Yeah, that's when Captain Sully Sullenberger and his co-pilot successfully landed U.S. Airways Flight 1549 in the middle of the Hudson River. They had no other option after a bird strike caused the plane to lose engine power shortly after takeoff. Amazingly, all 150 passengers on board survived, were pulled from the plane as we all watched while it was floating on the river.
This morning, we are joined by one of those passengers on that flight, Pamela Siegel. Pamela, thank you so much for taking the time to come into our studio today. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
So take us back to January 15th, 2009. You've just taken off from LaGuardia. What did this feel like when this first happened? What was going through your mind?
Yeah, so it was, we had a slight delay coming out of there. It was a very routine flight. For some of us who did that Charlotte to New York route, you did it all the time. You knew the gate. We took a slight delay. We came out, and it felt like a fairly normal day. It had been cold and snowy that morning, but when we took off, everything was fine. I'm a nervous flyer. I waited a minute or two before I reached down to get my book, and as I was getting my book, I heard the bang, felt the shutter, immediately came back. It felt like we hit something, but you're in the air, you can't, you're trying to make sense of it. So what happened? Someone on the right side said, right engine's on fire. Someone said, left engine's on fire. And that's when you realize, like, this is not good. We lost some forward momentum, kind of banked to the left. Somewhere in that period, Captain Sullenberger came on and said, this is the captain, brace for impact, and realized we were going to go in the river. So tried to do my best to brace.
How did that impact you at the time, in the days and weeks after that? What was life like? And even still now, 15 years later, what are things? How do you reflect on it?
So in the days and weeks after, there was definitely, there's definitely a little PTSD and having to, what happened, make sense of the story. It's in the media, it's being covered. And so kind of trying to internalize all of that. And then there's, all of these things. I had to take a little more control around flying. What kind of aircraft am I getting? Do I know the exit rows and all of that? Learning breathing techniques to learn how to fly. But then there was also the bigger changes that I was able to make in my life. So there was spending more time with friends and family. I've been able to be there for, graduation of my children, marriages, now going to be a grandparent for the first time. And then also, professionally, I was able to change and really find my purpose and passion. And I now travel the world helping women and women entrepreneurs, and have been all over the world because I was able to kind of take that moment and pivot and figure out what was really important to me.
Oh, that's incredible. I know at the time, right, you only knew one person on the plane when you boarded it. But coming off that plane, you now have some other lifelong friendships. Is that right?
Absolutely. So there's definitely friends for life. So yes, knew one person on the plane. He and I are still very close. We work together. We see each other frequently. But yeah, so we as passengers had to network and find each other. I mean, the first one came from someone who went to the hospital with me and left a soggy business card on, and so I found that person. And then one by one we connected, and we have Facebook groups and we have meetups. And there's usually in New York a dinner on the anniversary. Sometimes I don't usually do that. I want to be with my family. That's what's important to me right now. But yeah, the passengers are very close, and we have lifelong friends as a result.
And I'm guessing you have pretty high feelings about the captain.
Absolutely. Yeah, we all do. I mean, absolutely. Captain Sullenberger and the whole crew. I mean, they really did work together. Absolutely.
It's kind of this reminder. We sit there in the plane and we go through all those exercises beforehand.
Yeah, you might even really be listening.
Yeah, there's a reason they do that. Yes.
It's a really good reminder. Pamela Siegel, thank you for joining us. Thanks for recounting that day, and congrats on soon to be being a grandparent.
Thank you.
Great to have you here.
Coming up, contamination concerns in one California community.
You can feel that you're sucking in dirt, grime. You can feel it on your skin.
When we come back, an NBC News investigation on a battery plant being blamed for the problem several years after its closure.
And water woes. Alarming new research shows bottled water has more plastic in it than originally thought. We'll break down the findings and what it could mean for you. That's next on Morning News Now. Welcome back. A California community is still feeling the impact of lead contamination from a battery plant years after its closure. The EPA is deciding whether to designate at least 3 former plant sites once run by Exide Technologies as what's called a Superfund site. That's what the EPA calls contaminated locations. It allows the agency to help clean up toxic lead released into communities. NBC News senior investigative and legal correspondent Cynthia McFadden has the details.
Hi. Well, the EPA is considering whether to designate 3 former battery recycling plants as Superfund sites. That's because all 3 of them left such large levels of lead in the soil and in the air around the communities in which they operated. All 3 of them run by the same company, Exide Technologies. We took a close look at one of them. Here on the east side of Los Angeles, at what was once a battery recycling plant, they've chiseled the company's name, Exide, off the wall. If only it was as easy to erase the harm it has done to the people who live here.
It's very evil, very, very evil.
For most of the 40 years Monsignor John Moretta has served the neighborhood next to the plant, he has battled to close it, as the facility knowingly released cancer-causing arsenic and lead, in some places 650 times what the state says is safe. Well, more than 100,000 people have been affected.
I couldn't sit up here and just pray and just think that that somehow my people are going to be saved.
He and other community leaders were finally successful in getting the plant shuttered in 2015 after Exide admitted to felony violations, including the illegal storage and disposal of hazardous waste, in a settlement with the Department of Justice. But now, 9 years after the plant closed, life-threatening problems remain. Honestly, you can feel that you're sucking in dirt, grime. You can feel it on your skin. The state's $500 million cleanup has failed. And a new study exclusively obtained by NBC News shows that the contaminated area is more than twice the size originally thought.
When we found out that our property was contaminated, we were heartbroken.
Like most people here, Guadalupe Valdivinos lives surrounded by her extended family.
Nobody cares how hurt we are, how sick we are. My 2-year-old is in behavioral therapy. Is it a coincidence? Nobody will tell me.
Children are particularly vulnerable to being poisoned by lead, which over time can cause brain damage and developmental delays. Community members say despite repeated requests, the state has not provided any long-term health testing. Mark Lopez's family has lived here since the 1950s.
I'm very motivated.
He now leads a nonprofit instrumental in shuttering Exide, but says he's furious the company got away with a modest fine, later declaring bankruptcy and dissolving in the U.S.
When we talk about environmental racism, it's not just the fact that these facilities exist in our communities. It's also when disaster happens, how do the authorities respond? And they respond in ways that tell us that our lives don't matter.
In fact, Dr. Jill Johnston was the lead author of a recent study that concluded the state's cleanup is not working. 4 out of 5 homes that were cleaned by the state are still contaminated. The team also concluded that 98% of homes as far as 4.5 miles from the former plant tested at lead levels above state standards. State officials at the Department of Toxic Substances Control, DTSC, responsible for the cleanup, have declined repeated requests for an interview. How good a job have they done in your estimation?
Failed completely. Year after year after year, DTSC has failed.
DTSC did tell us they have hired a new contractor to run the cleanup and a third-party monitor. But after decades of failed promises, the community is both angry and in despair. Well, the state has spent almost $1 billion on a cleanup that just has not worked. We'll see how this new company does. Back to
Cynthia, very powerful reporting. Thank you so much.
More environmental news now. Let's take a look at a new study that is all about the safety of bottled drinking water. Researchers from Columbia and Rutgers universities found that your regular liter of bottled water contained about 240,000 detectable plastic fragments. Scientists say that's 10 to 100 times more than previously estimated.
So is this going to change what you see on store shelves? Well, for now, probably not. The International Bottled Water Association responded to the study in a statement saying they've had, quote, very limited notice and time to review this new study closely and cannot provide a detailed response at this time.
Joining us now to help break this down is Dr. Phoebe Stapleton. She is one of the co-authors of the study and an associate professor of pharmacology and toxicology at Rutgers University. Doctor, thank you so much for joining us. So let's talk about the study's findings. What exactly did you discover and how concerned should we be about it?
So in this study, we were able to use some new technology to be able to identify the nano-sized plastic, so the really very smallest of those plastic fibers. And that's one of the reasons that we were able to detect so many more. Previous work had detected the micro-size, or the about a grain of sand size plastics. The concern is still under evaluation. We need to do more health testing to understand how these nano-sized plastic particles interact with our cells.
As we said earlier, the study found these concentrations of plastic in bottled water. It was 10 to 100 times greater than previously estimated. Just put that in context for us, that it was so much worse than we thought.
Yeah, so we've been able to identify micro-sized plastics, and those are about the size of a sesame seed, a grain of sand, a little bit smaller than that. And this technology allowed us to look at nano-sized plastic particles, and those are 1,000 times smaller than the smallest of those microplastics before. And so that's why these numbers are so much greater and so startling, because as scientists, we knew that they were there. We just didn't have a tool or technology to be able to identify them, quantify them, and really give us the type of plastic they are, too. And that's what makes this study so special.
Let's talk about the significance of this, your study, studies like it. What do you hope they lead to in A, what we learn, but B, then any sort of action that's taken?
So that's exactly it. I think the first line is awareness, because you don't know of something that you can't see. And so these tools and technologies allow us to be able to identify that these plastic particles are indeed in our water sources. There was a study also released this week to identify them in a variety of different protein sources as well. So first is to become aware of what they are. And where they are. The next step is to identify what they do when they get in contact with human tissues. Those micro-sized plastics have been identified in human tissues, in the human lung, human blood, human placenta. And so to have a great understanding of what they're doing, and then those policy and remediation laws can come into effect as well.
Phoebe, how concerned should somebody be if they're just like picking up a flat of these water bottles, something like that, when they're just at the grocery store, or even, you know, if you're running through an airport and you grab one just because you're traveling? How much of a concern? How much should people be thinking about this?
I think it's an awareness to try to limit the contact with plastic if you have that option. So you just had a story about lead, and I know the people in that community are going to be drinking bottled water because we know that the bottled water doesn't have the lead in it. It's going to be safer for those communities. And so those are some really personal choices to try to limit your exposure as best as possible. But reusable aluminum, reusable glass, that not only limits one's exposure, but also limits the disposal of that plastic bottle once you're done with it. So it's really a twofold win to try to use some of those more reusable options.
All right, Dr. Phoebe Stapleton, thanks for joining us this morning. We appreciate your time.
Thank you for having me.
Let's turn now to some financial headlines. After a false post on Tuesday that we discussed here, the Securities and Exchange Commission has decided to give Bitcoin ETFs, they're called, the green light.
CNBC's Silvana Henao joins us with that and other money news. Silvana, good morning.
crypto. Savannah, good morning to you. Yes, so the SEC votes to allow mainstream investors to buy and sell Bitcoin as easily as stocks and mutual funds. So it's a decision being hailed as a game changer for the crypto industry. The SEC's decision clears the way for the first U.S. exchange-traded funds, or ETFs, that hold Bitcoin to be sold to the public. Previously, if you wanted to buy or sell digital currencies, you had to either trade on a crypto exchange like Coinbase and pay a hefty transaction fee, or buy products that track Bitcoin in less direct ways. Now, a dozen funds from companies including BlackRock, Fidelity, Invesco, and WisdomTree have been given the green light to list their ETFs on stock exchanges as soon as today. Meanwhile, Google is laying off hundreds of employees, including from its voice assistant team and the hardware group responsible for Pixel, Nest, and Fitbit. The co-founders of Fitbit are also leaving the company, and the majority of people in the augmented reality team are being let go. Now, the layoffs come as companies like Google and Microsoft are betting big on the adoption of generative AI technology following the success of ChatGPT. And if you listened to more music last year, well, you're not alone. A report from music and entertainment research firm Luminate finds the global music industry topped 4 trillion streams in 2023. That is a new single-year record, and that's up 34% from the previous year. Now, in the U.S., country, Latin, and world, which includes K-pop and Afrobeats, saw the biggest growth. Now, as for the biggest music star in the world, any guesses? Taylor Swift made up 1.8% of the U.S. streaming market, accounting for 1 in every 78 audio streams.
Wow.
And Savannah, I'm pretty sure you're responsible for a lot of that.
She was actually
carrying that.
Yeah, right?
That is an insane stat, though. Wow.
It really is. Yeah. I read that and I was like, wow. In the world.
Yeah.
Savannah, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Coming up, protecting artists in the age of AI.
Up next, we're going to take you to Tennessee, where a first-of-its-kind bill meant to safeguard musicians could soon set the stage for nationwide change. This is Morning News Now. Welcome back. Selena Gomez will play music icon Linda Ronstadt in an upcoming biopic. The 11-time Grammy winner Ronstadt confirmed the news on her social media, saying, quote, "It all started with a simple dream," a toss back to her 8th studio album. Ronstadt, of course, is a country, rock and roll, and Latin music legend. She holds the record for the biggest selling non-English language album in U.S. history. As for Gomez, in addition to her impressive music resume, she's an actress, scoring a Golden Globe nomination for her role in the series Only Murders in the Building. Both women are of Mexican heritage, and Rolling Stone reports that this new project currently in pre-production. Savannah, we were just talking about you streaming Taylor Swift. Literally a few days ago, I was streaming Linda Ronstadt.
There you go.
To her music, so I this clearly saw this coming.
Now you got to get some Selena in there to understand what's coming for you.
Exactly. There you go.
All right, we're going to end this hour with new efforts out of Tennessee to protect musicians in the age of artificial intelligence. The state's governor announced plans to update pre-existing laws to include protections for songwriters and artists from the misuse of AI. NBC News correspondent Blaine Alexander has the story.
In a state that launched some of music's most iconic voices, there's a groundbreaking new bill to help protect them. Standing in Nashville's legendary RCA Studio A, Tennessee Governor Bill Lee announced new legislation to protect artists in the age of artificial intelligence, a first-of-its-kind bill with a very intentional name.
It's called the Ensuring Likeness, Voice, and Image Security Act. ELVIS Act, the Elvis Act.
It would expand on existing laws protecting likeness by safeguarding the voices of songwriters, performers, and music industry professionals from unauthorized AI recreation.
And artificial intelligence, as helpful and beneficial as it can be when used appropriately, is something that can, frankly, rob and destroy an artist's career if it's used inappropriately.
With the likes of Beale Street, Grand Ole Opry, and Stax Records, music in Tennessee is a nearly $6 billion industry. Officials hope to make this bill a nationwide blueprint. The overlap between music and AI is growing fast. This song went viral with AI-generated voices of Drake and The Weeknd without the artist's consent. But some artists like Demi Lovato and John Legend are leaning in, partnering with YouTube to provide limited access to their voices for 30-second clips. Back in the country music capital of the world,
no one wants to hear their voice or see their image taken without permission or used out of context.
Striving for harmony between music and technology. Blaine Alexander, NBC News.
See a lot more of that conversation happening, right?
I also like the Elvis act. That's very
clever. We see what you did there.
That's going to do it for this hour of Morning News Now.
Stick with us. The news continues right now. Hey everyone, good morning. Thanks for joining us on this Thursday. I'm Savannah Sellers.
I'm Joe Fryer. Right now on Morning News Now, back in court, former President Donald Trump expected to be present today for closing arguments in his civil fraud trial in New York. Why the judge, though, is denying Trump's request to deliver part of the argument himself as the case enters its final phase. Also in court today, Hunter Biden, the president's son, is due in a Los Angeles courtroom for his arraignment on tax-related charges, 3 of which are felonies. That hearing follows his surprise appearance at a congressional meeting, debating whether to hold him in contempt of Congress. More on those dramatic scenes on Capitol Hill and what we can expect later today. Plus, deadly avalanche in California. One person was killed, another injured in the snow at a ski resort near Lake Tahoe. We'll have the details and how to stay safe on the slopes. And all the world's a stage. In our latest edition of Flipping the Script, we'll speak with Broadway star Austin Scott about his latest project that has him stepping into the shoes of Shakespeare himself. He happens to star in like 2 of my favorite Broadway shows over the last couple of years, so I'm looking forward to having that conversation.
If they're your favorite, they must be good because he has seen everything.
Every show. All right. We're going to begin this hour with one of the legal cases against former President Trump nearing an end.
That's right. Closing arguments are set to take place today here in New York in the civil fraud trial against Trump and his company. The former president is accused of inflating the value of his business assets in order to get more favorable loan terms. Well, Trump asked to deliver some of the remarks in that closing argument himself today, but that request was denied by the judge presiding after the former president would not agree to certain conditions. MSNBC anchor Yasmin Basugian joins us from outside the courthouse in Lower Manhattan with a preview here. Hey, Yasmin, good morning. So tell us what those conditions were that the former president and his legal team did not agree to, and then also what we can expect during these closing arguments today.
I tell you guys, as you came to me, you saw me kind of shifting from side to side. It's cold out here, but sparks are likely to fly inside that courtroom this morning. And I want to read verbatim for you from the judge and the request that they had made, what the former president was able to do and not to do if, in fact, he was going to offer part of those closing arguments, saying Trump would be allowed to speak only about, quote unquote, material facts that are in evidence and application of the relevant law to those facts, just as lawyers are likewise restrained. The judge had said he would not allow Trump to make a campaign speech or to attack the judge, his staff, or attorney general Letitia James. And you know there's a gag order in place of the former president as well. So the question is what's going to happen this morning. Court is in session starting at 10 a.m. We're going to get 2 hours of closing arguments from the defense team, Chris Kise, Alina Habba, Cliff Roberts, followed by 2 hours of closing arguments from the prosecution as well, Kevin Wallace, Andy Amer. It's likely there's going to be, guys, a conversation between the former president's attorneys and Judge Engoron because of this back and forth leading up to today's closing arguments, beginning on January 4th, when Kise initially put in the request for the former president to offer part of those closing arguments. And these guidelines were put into place. There was a deadline as of yesterday noon. And by the way, that deadline was extended a couple of different times. I'm saying respond to these guidelines in place and or the former president will not be able to offer those closing arguments. They didn't respond in time. So Judge Engoron, as you mentioned, said, nope, it's not going to happen. Whether or not they're going to appeal to the judge today really is in question before those closing arguments get started.
So, Yasmin, we know Letitia James, the attorney general, initially sued for $250 million. Now she wants more. Yeah. She wants a lifetime ban against Trump, working in the New York real estate industry. What more can you tell us about what she's seeking?
I mean, think about this, guys, for a moment, right? We're looking at half a century here of what the former president has kind of built his reputation on, right? Being this real estate magnate in New York City, hobnobbing with the wealthiest of the wealthy here in New York City. So Letitia James is asking for $370 million in fines from the former president, asking him to be banned for life from working here in the New York City area and banned from serving as an officer or director of the New York corporation. So do not be fooled. I mean, we are looking at 90 plus criminal charges at this point for the former president, 4 possible trials as well when you're looking at both federal and then, of course, what's happening in Georgia as well. This case, though, you guys, I think is going to have a real effect on the former president along with his family as well because of what he has really based himself on for so long, right? And then the question is, when is this decision from the judge going to come? He has been very particular, very meticulous about his decisions throughout this entire trial. And so the likelihood this comes within the next day or two, very low. Within the next couple of weeks is more likely. And how high that number will be, still in question.
All right, Yasmin Vasugian in Lower Manhattan for us. Thank you so much.
President Biden's son, Hunter Biden, set to be arraigned later this afternoon in Los Angeles on federal tax charges.
The arraignment comes following the collapse of that plea deal you might remember from last year. Well, the deal would have given him 2 years probation after pleading guilty to misdemeanor charges. Meanwhile, House Republicans voted to recommend that the full House of Representatives hold Hunter Biden in contempt of Congress. This is for not complying with a subpoena. Well, he appeared yesterday, it was sort of a surprise, at one of the committee hearings before the vote.
NBC News Capitol Hill correspondent Ryan Nobles joins us now from Los Angeles. Ryan, good morning to you. So what can we expect during the hearing today on these tax charges?
Yeah, Joe, this should be a pretty routine arraignment hearing where Hunter Biden will answer to these new tax charges, 9 different charges, 3 of them felonies, where federal prosecutors are accusing him of neglecting to pay more than $1 million in taxes and also filing false returns. They say that instead of paying his taxes, he was spending money on things like luxury hotels, escorts, drugs, and many other things, and that was a violation of the law. Now, there is the possibility that if he's convicted on these charges, he could face up to 17 years in prison. It's unlikely that if convicted, he will face that amount of time, but these are serious charges that the special counsel has handed down. It is very likely that he will end up in trial, and that trial could happen in the midst of the 2024 campaign. Joe.
Brian, now can we talk about that appearance yesterday by Hunter Biden on Capitol Hill? He was joined by his lawyers. It kind of turned into this circus in the halls of Capitol Hill. Tell us about what happened.
Yeah, you know, Savannah, we are in a weird time on Capitol Hill. There's no doubt about that. We've come to expect the unexpected, but even by that standard, what we saw play out yesterday was just something that was very unprecedented. No one knew that Hunter Biden planned to show up for this hearing. He was not scheduled to be a part of it. This was actually an attempt to hold him in contempt of Congress for not cooperating with Congress. So the fact that he showed up there is a demonstration that he was willing to answer their questions, but he wanted to do so in a public setting was pretty remarkable. It didn't really change the course of action by these 2 House committees. They still voted out a resolution to ask the entire House to recommend that he be held in contempt of Congress because he refused to sit for a closed-door deposition. Now, it could mean that if the entire House agrees with this congressional committee and Republicans are in the majority, so it is likely that this will then be sent to the Department of Justice, where they could potentially prosecute Hunter Biden for not abiding with this request from Congress.
Ryan, that drama from yesterday stems from the Republican-led impeachment inquiry into President Biden. Where does that inquiry stand right now?
Yeah, well, there's no doubt that this is a big part of it, Joe, and Hunter Biden is a key witness to these Republican allegations that it was his foreign business dealings that the president specifically benefited from. They've yet to demonstrate any hard evidence to make that connection. A lot of it has just been innuendo. So trying to ask Hunter Biden specific questions about what his work was all about and his father's involvement or lack of involvement in it is an important part of this impeachment inquiry. Now, they are still moving forward with other depositions. They had the art dealer that has sold Hunter Biden's art, some of it to Democratic donors, in for a deposition earlier this week, and they are moving closer to articles of impeachment. But it's important to point out, Joe, that even the Speaker of the House has been pressed on whether or not the evidence is there to actually move to articles of impeachment, which would be pretty grave. And he has yet to say that the investigators have reached that point.
All right, Ryan, thank you so much.
Let's now get to the latest on winter weather this morning. Millions are picking up the pieces after those deadly storms tore through much of the country earlier this week. They brought snow, tornadoes, even torrential rain. And now a new threat is on its way. NBC News correspondent Emily Aketa is in Little Falls, New Jersey, where the flood risk remains high. Hey, Emily, good morning.
Hey there, Savannah. Well, more than 180 million Americans are facing new weather alerts through the week while still cleaning up from the last brutal blast. Water rescue teams here are at the ready with floodwaters continuing to pour into communities. You can see some of the water encroaching on homes behind me in an area that has seen nearly double the average rainfall over the past month.
This morning, a second blast of brutal weather is barreling across the U.S., just as millions are cleaning up from another sprawling winter storm this week. Some rivers in the Northeast still rising, spilling over into neighborhoods after nearly 5 inches of rain battered parts of the already drenched region.
We weren't going to be able to walk across the current, and so we at that point just kind of committed to staying in the building.
Schools closed and neighborhoods evacuated near a partial dam breach in Connecticut Wednesday. Rescue crews pulling people from fast-moving floodwaters. Winter weather from coast to coast. And in California, devastation at a popular ski resort near Lake Tahoe after a massive avalanche nearly 10 feet deep and 450 feet long swept up 4 people and killed one, a 66-year-old man.
This is a very sad day for my team and everyone here.
Back east, powerful winds whipping along the New England coastline, strong enough to push this empty southwest plain into a jet bridge in Maine. It's the same system that blanketed the Midwest in blinding snow and brought 24 reported tornadoes to the south. Residents there now picking up what's left of leveled homes. Nationwide, there's no relief in sight for storm-weary communities, bracing for another blast of winter.
We got flooded, I think, 6 weeks ago, right? 2 days ago, we just finished all the work, and now we're going to have to go through the same thing again.
And it's hard to make out where the Passaic River ends, with it overflowing its banks into the community. You can see it has passed this island of land into the neighborhood here. And the Passaic River is still rising at this point. That is cause for concern. It could remain in flood stage at least through tomorrow. That means that this region could be battered with more rain before this floodwater even recedes. Savannah?
All right, Emily, thank you so much.
Our severe weather coverage continues with meteorologist Angie Lassman.
Yeah, hey, Angie, tell us the latest here. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, guys. Emily laid out all of the impacts that we saw from that previous storm, and they're going to be really similar with this next storm that's on deck and working across the country, except we have an added punch of some bitter cold temperatures, the coldest that we've seen so far this season. Here's the deal. We've got 11 million people under these wind chill alerts up and down the plains, and you can see why. Temperatures into the single digits for Rapid City, Billings, Minneapolis sitting at 20 degrees, but single digit wind chill for Minneapolis right now, Rapid City 14 below. And these temperatures are going to continue to be like this and even get worse as the days go on. Here's the deal as we get into Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. These are your minimum wind chills, but they are dangerously cold in a lot of these spots. 41 below in Rapid City for Saturday and Sunday, 37 below for Grand Island, Des Moines going to get to 32 below. So really dangerously cold conditions that people are going to need to prepare for. As we look a little farther to the east and into the end of the weekend and early next week, single-digit temperatures are expected for Chicago on Monday, just 3 degrees for the high, teens for Cleveland, 6 degrees on Monday in St. Louis. So preparing for some really Arctic Arctic cold conditions that are going to work into that portion of the country. Now, when it comes to the other impacts, very similar path as that previous system, very similar impacts. Here's the deal for today. We see some of that snow swing through the plains. It'll make travel a little difficult. We have the potential to see some stronger storms this evening and into the overnight overnight hours across portions of the Gulf Coast. And then tomorrow, the southeast is where we have once again another chance to see strong storms, including the potential for some large tornadoes. The heavy rain will be something we deal with. And on top of that, those blizzard conditions will be stretched across parts of the Midwest, the Great Lakes, all going to see some heavy snow and some really strong winds. We've got alerts already up in a lot of those spots when it comes to winter alerts and wind alerts. The snow continues as we get into Saturday. We'll see really chilly conditions. And on top of that snow, it'll be difficult for travel, guys. We could see 1 foot to 1.5 feet along the lakes in Michigan. And here's why. We have really warm actual temperatures for the lakes. We're not dealing with much ice cover. So that means that when it comes to lake effect snow, it is the snow machine is still going. So unfortunately, for folks that live in that area, it's going to make travel really difficult for this weekend.
All right. Thanks, Angie. Appreciate it.
We're actually going to continue our weather coverage and get the latest in a massive avalanche at a popular Lake Tahoe ski resort. Officials say one person is now dead, another injured. As you can see in this video here, crews were using the ski lift to reach the impacted area. That's what's on your screen. More than 100 mountain personnel and emergency crews spent hours searching through the snow.
The resort shut down both sides of the mountain following the avalanche. Officials who are monitoring the situation say they now believe everyone is accounted for.
At this point in time, all search efforts have concluded, and we have come to the conclusion, which I'll let Palisades and Olympic Valley talk to more, that there is nobody else up on the mountain as a result of the avalanche.
We're going to bring in an expert here. Joining us now to discuss is Ethan Green. He's an instructor in avalanche science at the Colorado Avalanche Information Center. Ethan, thank you very much for being with us this morning. So the vice president of this resort where this happened, again in Lake Tahoe, said ski patrol teams, they've been doing avalanche control assessments since Sunday. What exactly does that mean, and what do we know about how this one started, what happened here?
Well, avalanche mitigation is kind of a season-long process where the ski patrol will track snowfall and actually go in and mechanically change the snow that's sitting on the hill. So they do that by using explosives, some sort of mechanical devices, heavy equipment, and also sometimes just skiing through the area. It's still too early for us to really know exactly how this particular avalanche started. That will take some time where the ski patrol or maybe some outside investigators go in and actually look at the snowpack and try to deconstruct what happened.
You know, Ethan, we know yesterday the Sierra Avalanche Center said there was a risk for a potential avalanche, pointing to a strong winter storm in the area as the reason behind it. How much does weather contribute to things like this, and how do people in and around the area, people who are skiing, whether on the slopes or backcountry, how do they prepare?
Weather is a huge factor. I mean, it is really the number one producer of avalanches. Most avalanches happen during or directly after snowstorms or big wind events like this. One important note that you brought up is really the difference between the backcountry and the ski area, and what people need to do to stay safe is really different between those two. Most of the avalanche fatalities happen in the backcountry, where people really need to be their own forecaster and really understand avalanches. Getting current information, having some education, and carrying rescue equipment is the best approach. Inside the ski area, you have these sophisticated programs and qualified professionals that are dealing with the hazard. So really paying attention to what's open, what's closed. And you can also be searchable. So there's certain devices that you can get in your clothing or equipment, or devices you can purchase where the ski patrol will be able to find you faster in case there is an unusual event like the one we saw yesterday.
Anything people should know if they are big skiers, if they like to be in these areas, if they find themselves in a situation like this, what they should do?
Well, again, it's really different if you're in the backcountry or in the ski area. If you're in the ski area, certainly contacting the ski patrol and telling them what you've seen, keeping track of your friends is a good approach. Again, you can carry devices that will make it easier for any avalanche rescue team to find you if you're buried in the snow. In the backcountry, the approach is to stay out of avalanches. That's really your best bet. The equipment you have between your ears is your best tool, and then of course having rescue equipment in case something goes wrong. People can go to avalanche.org and get the forecast for all the areas that have operating forecast centers throughout the country.
A thing between your ears. I like that. Use your brain and make the best decision about where you should be skiing. Ethan Green, thank you very much for joining us. Important info.
Thanks for
Now to Iowa on a day of headlines as the caucuses quickly approach. Just hours before the latest Republican debate between Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis, Chris Christie announced that he is stopping his long shot campaign. NBC's Garrett Hake is live in Des Moines with the latest. Garrett, good morning.
Hey, Joe, good morning. Yeah, this debate last night was really the last best chance for these two candidates to introduce themselves to the country before Iowa starts this process off 4 days from now with the caucuses. But their debate was overshadowed, at least in part, by Chris Christie dropping out of the race and by a comment Donald Trump made about what he might do about his presidential ticket.
Overnight, a fiery face-off in frozen Iowa, with the state's Republican caucuses now just 4 days away.
Put our own people first. We have to put Governor
Nikki Haley and Ron DeSantis debating one-on-one in what's likely a race for second place behind the dominant frontrunner here, Donald Trump. Haley and DeSantis launching repeated attacks on each other's records and honesty.
Every time he lies, Drake University, don't turn this into a drinking game because you will be overserved by the end of the night.
We don't need another mealy-mouthed politician who just tells you what she thinks you want to hear just to try to get your vote.
Haley mocking DeSantis for his campaign slide from top Trump rival as her momentum has grown in polls.
If you can't manage a campaign, how are you going to manage a country?
DeSantis belittling Haley's work as UN ambassador, labeling her as a globalist.
You can take the ambassador out of the United Nations, but you can't take the United Nations out of the ambassador.
Despite trailing Trump in Iowa and nationally, both candidates barely criticizing him.
I agree with a lot of his policies, but his way is not my way.
He also promised record deportations. Donald Trump deported fewer people than Barack Obama did when he was president.
Earlier Wednesday, the GOP field's most consistent critic of the former president, Chris Christie, suspending his campaign and taking shots at the frontrunner.
Anyone who is unwilling to say that he is unfit to be president of the United States is unfit themselves to be president of the United States.
Christie was also caught on a hot mic backstage discussing the race.
DeSantis called me, petrified.
And making this comment, presumably about Haley.
She's going to get smoked, and you and I both know it. She's not up to this.
Skipping the debate in favor of a Fox News town hall, Donald Trump seizing on that comment.
I happen to believe that Chris Christie is right. That's one of the few things he's been right about, actually.
Now, in that town hall, Donald Trump also raised some eyebrows by telling the moderators he's already decided who he'd like his vice president to be if he has the opportunity to pick one. His campaign later walked that comment back, saying no final decision had been made and they'd announce one if there was. But, Joe, that's the kind of thing that gets a lot of people in politics talking when you start picking your vice presidential nominee before the voting has even started.
I was going to say, in January, nevertheless. All right, Garrett, thanks so much.
Right.
Stay warm.
Coming up, we're going to talk about how Israel targets its enemies.
We're going to take a look at the country's long track record of assassinations and how it applies to the war with Hamas. That's next.
Welcome back. Let's get to international headlines, starting in Papua New Guinea, where protesters over pay cuts have turned into deadly riots.
NBC's Ali Arouzi joins us with that and other world news. Ali, good morning.
Good morning, Joe. Good morning, Savannah. That's right. A state of emergency has been declared in Papua New Guinea after major rioting and looting has killed at least 16 people. The country's prime minister has suspended the police chief along with some top bureaucrats in the finance and treasury departments while the government conducts a review into the cause of the riots. Over to Finland, where they're going to keep their border with Russia beyond January 15th, when it was due to reopen. The Nordic country shut down the crossing late last year after accusing Moscow of orchestrating the flow of asylum seekers. Some 900 people from countries including Syria and Yemen crossed over in November, an increase from less than one per day previously. And finally, over to Thailand, where they're moving towards banning the use of recreational marijuana 18 months after becoming the first country in Asia to decriminalize the plant. A conservative coalition government has vowed to tighten the rules and only allow the use of medical marijuana, ending a short but lucrative cannabis industry in Thailand. And those are your international headlines, guys.
Ali Arouzi, thank you very much for joining us with those.
This morning, we're taking a different look at the war between Israel and Hamas. One tactic Israel is employing is the use of targeted assassinations, from letter bombs to exploding mobile phones to drone strikes. Targeting enemies for assassination has long been part of Israel's playbook.
Yeah, but can that tactic work against an organization as large and as spread out as Hamas? Well, that's the topic of an article on NBCNews.com right now. It's written by our own global security reporter, Dan DeLuce.
Dan joins us now. Dan, thanks so much for being here. So let's start by asking you that very question. Can this practice of targeted assassinations work against something like Hamas?
You know, Joe, I think it's an open question. But if we look at the past, a lot of these types of operations did not destroy Hamas, did not eliminate their adversaries. It could weaken them. It could disrupt them for a time. But assassinations really are a tactic, one that raises a lot of obviously moral and legal questions. But it's really not a strategy, right? The ultimate solution, even some former Mossad, Israeli intelligence and military officials say, is some kind of ultimate diplomatic solution. But it is a way of striking back at Israel's enemies, and it's a way of trying to create some deterrence.
Let's take a look back. I mean, before the founding of modern Israel, this as a tactic. Nuclear scientists in Iran, the campaign to avenge the murders of Israeli athletes back at the 1972 Olympics. How effective is it overall as a tactic when you really think about broader accomplishing goals?
It really was something that from the beginning Israel chose as a tactic. They felt they had to strike back at some of these groups and that it wasn't sort of a conventional military problem that could be solved through those means. You know, we're looking at those images from the 1972 Munich Olympics where this horrible massacre occurred where Palestinian militants ended up murdering Israeli athletes. And Israel decided then to go and find and hunt down anyone they felt was associated or indirectly responsible for those killings. And they succeeded. There's, of course, a famous movie about this now by Steven Spielberg. But they did make a mistake. They misidentified someone in Norway in the ski resort in Lillehammer, and they killed a Moroccan waiter who they thought was a very senior aide to Yasser Arafat. And it ended up being exposed by the Norwegian authorities, and the Israeli intelligence agency suffered not only embarrassment, but lost a lot of their network in Europe. So there are high risks with these kinds of operations. And of course, there's always a risk to innocent civilians and bystanders.
Dan, looking at modern times, we had just over a week ago a drone strike killed a senior Hamas leader in Lebanon. U.S. officials said Israel is behind it. Israel has not claimed responsibility. What kind of impact do these assassinations have on the peace talks or lack thereof, and specifically toward this effort of trying to get the remaining hostages who are being held by Hamas?
You know, Joe, I think that Israel had to really weigh a lot of factors when they went after that senior Hamas leader, Aruri, in Beirut, in the heart of a Hezbollah stronghold. You know, many people are now saying, and diplomats are saying, that strike, while obviously damaged Hamas, may have jeopardized hostage negotiations to try to secure the release of the remaining Israeli hostages held by Hamas in Gaza. Of course, Qatar has been the intermediary between Hamas and Israel, with the Israelis' intelligence chief going to Doha to try to negotiate that. By going after this senior Hamas leader in Beirut, it does raise the question whether the hostage negotiations have been set back. There's really no imminent deal right now to get the rest of those hostages out. And the Israeli government just decided that they would take the risk.
All right, Dan DeLuce, thank you so much to our viewers. Please check out his full story at NBCNews.com. Coming up, speaking out.
That's right. Actor Mariska Hargitay is opening up about her experience of sexual assault 30 years ago. We're also going to hear how she's helping other survivors. That's up next.
You might know her as Olivia Benson, a detective working to track down and arrest sexual offenders on NBC's Law & Order SVU.
Well, now Mariska Hargitay is opening up about her own experience with sexual assault in People magazine. She says she found her strength from survivors across the country. NBC News senior national correspondent Kate Snow joins us with more on this. Hi, Kate. Good morning.
Hi, good morning, guys. For years, Mariska Hargitay has done a lot of work for survivors of rape and assault, but until now, she did not talk about her own history. She writes that this happened 30 years ago, that for years she minimized it, but now she's able to see clearly, she says, what was done to her. So she chose to write a first-person essay. For a quarter of a century, through Law & Order SVU, Mariska Hargitay has shined a light on what sexual abuse looks like. It's okay, honey. Now, in an exclusive essay for People magazine, she's describing her own sexual trauma. A man raped me in my 30s, she begins. It wasn't sexual at all. It was dominance and control, overpowering control. As many survivors do, Hargitay says she pushed it out of her mind. I couldn't process it. I couldn't believe that it happened, that it could happen, so I cut it out. I removed it from my narrative. She says of her experience, he was a friend, then he wasn't. I went into freeze mode, a common trauma response when there is no option to escape. I checked out of my body. But as the years went on, she says, she began talking about it in earnest with those closest to her. They were the first ones to call it what it was. They were gentle and kind and careful, but their naming it was important. Now I'm able to see clearly what was done to me. I understand the neurobiology of trauma. Trauma fractures our mind and our memory the way a mirror fractures. Hargitay telling People that she and Olivia Benson, who's also experienced trauma throughout the show's run, are on a parallel journey. She's discussed her beloved character on Today.
This is a character that our society needs against all odds, is focused and believes survivors.
Hargitay told me viewers regularly send her letters with their stories.
To learn that these women who had been through this horrible trauma would have the courage to come forward and then to be ignored.
She became an advocate for them, founding the Joyful Heart Foundation in 2004 and speaking out.
Although we have seen progress, there is still much more work to be done.
In her essay now, she writes, they're the ones who've been a source of strength for me. Her essay ends, the experience was horrible, but it doesn't come close to defining me. I'm turning 60, and I'm so deeply grateful for where I am, and I'm still proudly in process. Hargitay hopes from writing this essay that people are able to talk more openly about assault without survivors experiencing any shame. She says the shame of the act belongs with the perpetrator. And we should mention that new issue, guys, of People magazine is on newsstands nationwide tomorrow.
Really incredible to hear her open up, such a figure in this space and helping others.
Yeah, she has been.
Yeah.
And continues to be.
Oh, absolutely. Thank you so much. Great to have you here. Coming up, how is our economy looking as we kick off the new year?
The latest inflation report just out. We're going to dig into what the numbers mean for you right after the break.
We are back now with breaking economy news. The Bureau of Labor Statistics announcing its monthly inflation report.
Let's get to the numbers. Shows consumer prices in December were up 3% compared with the month before. November, bigger picture, inflation up 3.4% year over year. Breaking it down for us, we're joined by NBC News senior business correspondent Christine Romans and Investopedia editor-in-chief Caleb Silver. Good morning to both of you.
Yeah, Christine, so let's start with you. So this is up 0.3% compared with November. Tell us about these numbers. Walk us through. What should we know about this? What's it sound like?
You know, inflation heating up a little bit to end the year. You know, last year was a year of rapid cooling on the inflation front. So this 3.4% number is picking up a little bit from what we saw the month before. And that's kind of important here because progress on inflation has been critical for the Fed in its fight here to cool down the economy a little bit and try to execute a so-called soft landing. When you look inside these numbers, you can see rent, shelter was a big driver of this overall increase in this number. So that is something that we call sticky inflation. Really hard to try to turn that ship on the rent front. But there are hopes, and certainly people at the Fed and a lot of economists think rents will start to stabilize and even come down this year. So that could turn around. You had food prices up, you had gas prices up a little bit. So that seems to be driving these numbers.
All right. And to be clear, I misspoke. 0.3% over November. Savannah thankfully corrected me, but overall, this 3.4% year over year. What's your reaction to that? Is that a little higher than we thought it might be?
Yeah, a little hotter than expected. And inflation is bumpy, especially when we get what we call disinflation. That is a slowing in the rate of growth, and that's what we've had. But look at goods. Goods prices have come way down. Look at used cars. Those have really come down a lot. But it's the sticky stuff that Christine mentions that's tough to get around. Shelter prices are high, which means rent prices are high. We've already talked about the housing market, and that rent price, 30% of your income going towards rent or more for some people, that puts pressure across the rest of what you spend on.
Oh, absolutely. Christine, now that we're into January, we can kind of look back at the last year. Let's do year over year, if you don't mind, 2023 versus 2022, when we know inflation was super high. What should we know in that comparison?
Well, let me just show you the trend. I mean, we were back at 9.1% in the summer of 2022, and that felt just awful. I mean, it's one of the reasons why so many of the public opinion polls still show people feel terrible about the economy, because they remember when inflation was this high. That has been a memory they have not been able to shake. But you can see the rapid progress here. So this little blip at the end of this line here, I think we should really put it in context. The trend has been quite friendly in terms of the inflation moderating. Will it get even better early this year? We certainly hope so. It's not the 2% that the Fed would like. You know, 3.4% is not what the 2% the Fed would like, but it is moving in that direction. And we'll just have to see if this is a 1-month bump, a reacceleration of inflation a little bit, and then it cools off again in the beginning of the year, or something that's longer. We just won't know quite yet.
Yeah, Caleb, is holiday spending one of the factors here? Yeah. And maybe we shouldn't judge too much about this as to what we're going to expect to see the rest of the year.
Yeah, don't forget, this is a December report, the last one of the year. A lot of spending going into that month, whether it's travel, whether it's eating out. So prices will remain up when you have that type of demand. But we're starting off this year looking at a 3.4% rate. The Fed wants us, again, closer to 2%. A lot of economists predicting we'll get to that number by the end of the year. But if we get a real slowdown in the economy, that could actually spin things in the wrong direction here. So you want a Goldilocks, that soft landing Christine mentioned and the Fed always mentions. That's what we're looking for. Maybe we steady out as we go into the spring.
So what might the Fed do then?
You mean in 20 days, 5 hours, and 20 minutes?
You always got the countdown going for us.
They're going to do nothing. They're going to hold rates right where they are at that end of January meeting. It's the March meeting that we want to look at, and May. Is that when the Fed starts cutting rates? Do they push that off a little bit longer? That's what we're going to be watching for in the next couple of months.
Caleb Silver, Christine Romans, always all over it for us. Thank you both very much. Well, now let's get to college football, where longtime University of Alabama head coach Nick Saban is planning to call it a career. Saban is long considered to be one of the best college football coaches of all time, winning 6 championships with the Crimson Tide. NBC News correspondent Jesse Kirsch takes a look back at his legendary career.
This news raising eyebrows for football fans all over. If you're having a debate about who might be the greatest college football coach of all time, Nick Saban has to be on your list. And now the Crimson Tide are marking the end of an era of dominance on the gridiron. This morning, the tide is changing at Alabama, with head football coach Nick Saban announcing his retirement. The 72-year-old icon writing in a statement, it is not just about how many games we won and lost, but it's about the legacy and how we went about it. Saban was a college head coach for 28 years.
I can't tell you how pleased and honored I am to be your coach at the University of Alabama.
Spending the last 17 of them at Alabama, turning the Crimson Tide back into a powerhouse program.
Finally, I got him. Some Crimson Gatorade.
He won 6 national championships there, most recently in 2021 against Ohio State.
I'm so proud of this group for what they've been able to accomplish and going undefeated and winning the national championship.
At the start of this season, Saban called possible retirement rumors laughable.
I don't want to do this if I can't do it anymore, but I feel great right now. I love it.
This season, Saban and Alabama winning the SEC championship and earning a spot in the Rose Bowl, where the Tide fell short to the eventual national champs, the Michigan Wolverines.
Really, really proud of this group.
In 2022, Saban telling our Stephanie Dosk how he has made the mental health of his players a priority.
We're all going to have bad things that happen, but our ability to overcome those negatives is going to go a long way in helping us be successful.
This morning, the sports world praising one of the winningest coaches in college football history.
I don't think there's anybody that's a better coach than Nick Saban.
NFL Hall of Famer and current Colorado head coach Deion Sanders tweeting, "Wow, college football just lost the GOAT to retirement." In Tuscaloosa, the Alabama faithful sad to see Saban go.
At Alabama, we have this thing called the standard, and that standard is winning. So I hope whoever the future coach is, I hope he can live up to that standard.
That standard is going to be tough to match. To give you some perspective, the college football playoff has been around for 10 years. Nick Saban's Crimson Tide has played in 8 of those 10 playoff semifinal rounds. Back to you.
Oh, what a stat there, Jesse. Thank you so much.
This morning, we're also following news another legendary coach could be stepping down. According to reports from ESPN and The Athletic, legendary NFL coach Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots have mutually decided to part ways. Belichick, of course, led the Pats during one of the most dominant eras in sports, winning 6 Super Bowls and 17 division titles over a 24-year period. This latest development comes after the worst season of Belichick's career, ending in a 4-13 record. Belichick is due to address the media at noon alongside Patriots owner Robert Kraft. NBC News has reached out for comment. Talk show host Pat McAfee says NFL star quarterback Aaron Rodgers is done appearing on his ESPN show. Rodgers had previously made remarks on the show that suggested late-night host Jimmy Kimmel had ties to convicted sex trafficker Jeffrey Epstein. Kimmel brought the feud to another level this week when he fired back at Rodgers during a monologue on his show on ABC. Here's a bit of what he said.
I'm not one of those people who thinks athletes and members of the sports media should stick to talking about sports. I think Aaron Rodgers has the right to express any opinion he wants to, but saying someone is a pedophile is not an opinion, nor is it trash talk. Sorry, Pat McAfee.
Here now to discuss, special correspondent for Vanity Fair and author Brian Stelter. Brian, good to have you there. So walk us through what happened to get to the point of McAfee distancing himself from the superstar quarterback who was a huge draw. Yeah. I mean, I think the fact that maybe Kimmel invoked his name during that monologue earlier this week might have had something to do with it.
This is something that goes back years because Aaron Rodgers has had a lot of skepticism about vaccines. And during the pandemic, there were some questions about whether he was actually vaccinated. Jimmy Kimmel had criticized Rodgers back then. So the two men had this beef going back a couple of years. And it erupted last week when Rodgers goes on ESPN on the Pat McAfee show and implies that maybe Jimmy Kimmel was caught up with Jeffrey Epstein, that maybe Kimmel was one of those corrupt guys who was exploiting women on Epstein's island. Now, Rodgers says he was just joking, but you can't make jokes like that. It's one of the nastiest claims you can make, on a random sports radio talk show. This was even more controversial because Kimmel and Pat McAfee are both stars of Disney. We're talking about ESPN, which is part of Disney, and ABC, which is part of Disney. So this became a big mess for the House of Mouse. And ultimately, Pat McAfee has cleaned it up by saying that Rodgers is not going to be back on his ESPN show, at least for the rest of this football season. Rodgers will probably be back in the future, but not for now.
So for anyone who hasn't been closely following this, just like a timeline reminder here, was that the morning following that monologue that we just played a little snippet of there, he was back on the show. McAfee allowed him back on the show. Rodgers was there. So why do you think it was after that now he's not going to let him back on the show? What do you think happened?
Pat McAfee's in a really unique position because he produces his own show, and then ESPN pays a license fee. In other words, Pat McAfee is not your typical television host who's employed by ESPN. He's his own brand. He's his own star. So he was able to bring on Rodgers. He even pays Rodgers for these interviews, which is very unusual in sports or news. Doesn't happen at all in news. It's very unusual in sports. But I think ultimately Pat McAfee made a business calculation that this Rodgers thing was a distraction. It was bad for business. Rodgers talking about his anti-vaccination views, talking about his beef with Jimmy Kimmel. It was a distraction from a great sports talk show, and it was bad for business. So ultimately, it's a win for Disney and for CEO Bob Iger to get this fixed because Pat McAfee knew it was in everybody's interest to try to stop this feud from going on any further.
All right. Ryan Stelter, thanks for joining us this morning. Appreciate it.
Very interesting. Thanks. Wow, we just had a whole sporty block. Look
exactly. Lots of sports news this morning. Coming up, all right, let's not talk about sports. Let's talk a little bit about Broadway, from Hamilton to Shakespeare.
That's right. We're going to speak with Broadway star Austin Scott about his latest larger-than-life role in our latest edition of Flipping the Script. Stay tuned for Joe's conversation. Welcome back. This is pretty epic. We've got a boy band crossover for you. AJ McLean from the Backstreet Boys and Joey Fatone from NSYNC just announced they are going on a joint headline tour. They're calling it a legendary night, and the singers will be performing all the hits that made the 90s and 2000s fans swoon. Plus, according to the press release, AJ and Joey will also share some stories from their time on the road. Their mini North American tour kicks off on March 15th. I was in sync all the way, Joe. What about you? Were you a fan?
I was definitely more in sync than Backstreet Boys, but I love them both. And actually, Savannah, I could not think of a better story to set up our next interview segment. Our series, Flipping the Script, featuring people on screen, on stage, and behind the scenes working to shine a spotlight on diversity. Enter Austin Scott. The actor recently joined the cast of the hit Broadway musical & Juliet, which features the music of the Backstreet Boys and NSYNC. He's playing the role of Shakespeare. He's also appeared in Girl from the North Country and Hamilton, where he played Alexander Hamilton himself. Also appearing on screen, starring in Tyler Perry's A Jazzman's Blues, and most recently, Mr. Monk's Last Case, a Monk movie on Peacock. This morning, we're lucky enough to be joined by Austin Scott himself. Thank you so much for being here. You have been busy the last few years. My goodness.
That's right.
Being in & Juliet, I mean, I'm sure when you're growing up and you want to be an actor, you think, I'm going to be in a Shakespeare play. Rarely do you think, I'm going to be Shakespeare. What has that experience been like?
It's been very, very, very interesting. I mean, stepping into the shoes of Shakespeare is definitely an honor and a little bit daunting. Luckily, this is a version of Shakespeare. I mean, it's very historically accurate. Of course, there's much documentation showing how much he loved the Backstreet Boys. So, you know, that's very good.
Huge Backstreet Boys fan. So
exactly.
Perfect.
So, you know, really wanted to nail his passion in that regard. But no, it's been very, very fun. I definitely had to brush up on my Shakespeare because there's so many little quotes and things like that, you know, just make sure I know what he's saying and where it's from and everything like that. But a lot of hardcore Shakespeare fans have come to the stage door and said how much they, you know, enjoyed my portrayal and everything. So that's been very wonderful.
That must be good to hear. So as I was going through all the different things you've been in on Broadway, it sort of hit me. You've got & Juliet, which is the music of Max Martin. If you don't know who that is, he's basically the most prolific hit maker of the last 25 years.
Look him up for sure.
Girl from North Country is Bob Dylan's music, who also has had a pretty good career himself. And then on top of that, you have Lin-Manuel Miranda, who did Hamilton. You have been singing the words, the lyrics, the music of just really icons who stretch over decades of music. Does that hit you? I mean, what's that like for you?
It definitely hits me. It definitely hits me. I try and just think of it in terms of how much of a privilege it is and how exciting, and not too much of like, wow, what an incredible, what's the word? Just how terrifying that is. You know, if you think about
honor, but
honor, exactly. I was like, try and stick to the positive and not the like, wow, this is a big deal. But it's really, really incredible. I feel so lucky to be able to kind of be a mouthpiece for so much incredible work and incredible genius. You know?
All incredibly different, but all really poets, I guess you could say, in their own right. Girl from the North Country, I've often said, is one of my absolute favorite shows. You got to originate a role in that. It's Bob Dylan's music. It's not about Bob Dylan, but it hits on something that was really important, which is racial inequality. One of the songs you sing is Hurricane. For those who don't know, Bob Dylan based that song off of the real-life story of a black boxer falsely convicted of murder. I wasn't familiar with that backstory until I started digging into it. But that song and performing that song, what did that mean to you?
It was very powerful. I think it meant different things. So, as you may know, North Country opened in 2020, and then pandemic hit, so then we closed, and then we came
days
back.
later,
Days later, yeah. And then we came back. And when we came back, that was post George Floyd, post Breonna Taylor. So it really took on a whole other meaning for me, I think, when we came back. And there were so many nights when I kind of just blacked out. You know, I started the song and then I woke up on the other end and just kind of went through something. And I think that was really powerful, and I think it was powerful for other people just to hear. It was a chance to just kind of get out a lot of pain and a lot of frustration and a lot of anger, you know, night after night, and just really connect with that. And that felt really kind of therapeutic for me in a way.
I think it really helped the audience, too. You could feel the audience feeling it in that moment. I read an interview with you in the past. You talked about the fact you didn't go to like a college theater program or a conservatory. You sort of had to carve your own way. What is your advice to people who look at what you're doing and aspire to do what you're doing and are figuring out the best path forward?
Yeah, I think my biggest advice would be to just stay curious, stay playful, keep growing. just listen, look around you and learn from everybody you can, you know, especially if you didn't go to a conservatory like I did. You know, you're learning on the job. Life is your teacher, you know, so just staying really open and playful. And also just remembering that, like, acting is, you don't act in a vacuum. No one acts alone. You know what I mean? You've got the script, and you've got the director, and you've got the other actors, you know, so vital and so important. So just staying open, staying connected, and remembering that, you know, no one does this alone. You're never alone.
We were commenting, we only have a few seconds left here, but you and I are both very tall. We're both trying to cram in here. I'm 6'3", you're 6'4". You're playing Blake Griffin in the NBA. What's that like?
It's amazing. Another very daunting, but, you know, honor as well. Very, very fun.
All right, that'll be a TV series coming up on FX soon. For those who have not seen & Juliet, which I have seen 4 times.
Of course you have.
And we'll likely see it more. But Savannah, have you seen it yet?
No.
Nope. See, I'm going to take Savannah.
I've said, take me to something you want me to see.
Definitely.
Do it.
& Juliet's #1 on the list. And you can come see Austin. Austin Scott, thank you so much for joining us. It's a pleasure having you on. Congratulations on all of your success. We appreciate your time. That is going to do it for this hour of Morning News Now.
That was a great conversation. And Austin, I'll be there. The news continues right now. Stay with us.
Thanks for watching. Stay updated about breaking news and top stories on the NBC News app or follow us on social media.